you are not muted, if you could go ahead and mute yourself, please, that would be a huge help. We are going to, again, my name is Richelle Williams. I'm the Aquatics and Youth Programs Coordinator at Western Washington University. That's located in Bellingham, Washington, which is about 90 miles north of Seattle. And things are a little wild right now. So I am really happy to be chatting with everybody today, and hopefully we can find some solidarity in each other and come up with some great ideas, so that way we can all really come out of here with some innovative programming, and if nothing else, some comfort in the fact that everybody is in the exact same boat. So I just want to remind everybody that this is a safe space and everybody is in different stages of response to the pandemic that is currently happening. I am in Washington State, and so things have been really real here for a couple of months. And we had a stay-at-home order effective as of yesterday. So and things escalated here really, really quickly about 2 weeks ago. We went from, oh, things will be fine, maybe a little, you know, reduced hours, we'll figure it out, to we're closing tomorrow. So that has been a really emotional experience for me, and also kind of a really scary experience, because if I'm going to assume most of you were aquatics professionals, and I had never realized until I was working from my parents' dining room table last week that I didn't have a pool next to me. And I had never realized that after 15 years of working next to a pool, how much that was actually part of my identity. And so I'm now trying to pivot and find my new purpose, or my continued purpose, in serving students, just in a different capacity. This is being recorded, and also everything that goes into the chat will be saved. And NIRSA has been turning these around really quickly, so more than likely this will be posted tomorrow or the next day. So if folks want to open up the chat feature, it would be really great to hear from people verbally based off of your experiences as we go through this. And then also in the chat, if you have any questions or anything you would like for me to try to address while we are going through this, please send them in the chat, and you can either do it to everybody or privately to me, and I will try to stay on top of that. So we'll go ahead and get started with, how's everyone doing as far as, like, is everyone's rec centers closed right now? Or do we have anybody, I'm seeing shaking of heads, yes. Do we have anybody that still has a rec center that is open? I'm not seeing, okay. And then, is everybody working remotely? Yes, I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. Nope, UNCA is not. Okay, so I see mostly working from home or working remotely, mostly closed, a couple that are in combinations. And I think, like, obviously I'm not a medical professional, but if you have the option to work from home, it is prudent for you to be at home and stay safe. Has anybody had any challenges with working from home? Does anybody, and you're also more than welcome to unmute yourself and hop on if you've had any experiences that you would like to share. Has anyone had any challenges with kind of transitioning to working from home?
Yeah, I had a quick question kind of along the lines of, like, facility management. Like, what are people doing as far as, like, water quality stuff? Are you still, like, having somebody check water? Are you just not caring? Have you drained pools? Like, what's that kind of looking like since you're working remotely?
Yeah, and I can talk about that on my end. we have a mechanical tech that is deemed an essential part of the university. So he is going in and he is still working every day, and he's the only one that is in our building for the foreseeable future. It looks like people are winterizing their pools, draining, still monitoring.
Nick, what we're doing is all of our pro staff are going in at least once a day to do building checks. And then I go in 3 times a week and I do a full chemical test and I add anything that needs to be added. So we're only in the building 1 at a time, and it's only for the maximum of an hour just to check pipes and leaks and things like that. And everything's automatic at the pool anyway. So I'm finding that the chemicals are very stable. Everything's good. I turn the heat down. I turn the chemicals a little lower to try to save. But I've hardly had to do anything. So that's working good for Cal State Fullerton.
So at UTSA, we're trying to figure out what we can do for our students to get them hours. And so one of the big things that we've been able to provide from an aquatic standpoint is they can still go in and they can check the chemicals and make sure that there's no major leaks in the pump room every single day. So that's kind of how we've been monitoring it. And then if they find anything obviously out of the ordinary, they let me know, and then we go from there.
This is Jason Darby at University of Southern Miss. Our aquatics coordinator was not deemed to be on the essential staff list. So he's been still kind of every couple of days going and checking chemicals, but we finally made the decision to go ahead and we are going to drain our pool. We're in the process right now of cleaning it. And we had a few volunteers from our scuba kinesiology program have been kind of helping with that. But we're hearing that we may not get back open until towards the end of May. So just from a financial standpoint and from a chemical standpoint, we're going to go ahead and drain. We usually do it once a year anyways for cleaning. So we're just going to go ahead and expedite that process and do it now. And then that way we can shut the pumps off. We can get keep chemicals from going and try to look at it from a fiscal perspective on that, since we're losing a lot of revenue with the shutdown.
Well, that leads into the next question, which do people have any sort of tentative dates to reopen, or do people have any? And I know that we're all kind of like, especially we had a mandatory mandate that we were going to be shut down for 2 weeks, and then we had our stay-at-home order as of yesterday, which means the earliest we could open is April 8th here. Does anybody? Jason said maybe the end of May. I see LOL no.
This is Aaron Watkins from Coppin State University. As of right now, I know my supervisor will go in. He's going into the office. He's been every day this week. So I know he's going in and checking the pool chemicals and things like that. I am the aquatics manager there. So I go in when I can get there when he's not there, so I can just make sure everything's fine. I don't think that we've drained the pool yet as of right now. We are set to open, I want to say, between the mid or end of April. So it's looking kind of crazy right now with everything going on. But as of right now, that's just where we are.
Yep. And what I'm seeing in the chat is that people are tentatively anywhere from mid-April all the way through June, the end of June right now, where everything is canceled. Are you all on a different kind of open and close or hours of operation schedule than what your on-campus classes dictate? So for example, we potentially will open in April, but all of our classes are moved online through June.
So here at University of Wyoming, it's all online classes right now. However, as far as operations goes, most buildings are closed, including the rec center here. And at this time, we don't have a reopen date. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks, we can sort of get a timeline going. But as of right now, we don't have a reopen one.
FSU has been told that we will be online until the start of our summer C, which is the first attempt to reopen, but that's not until June 22nd. So we will be closed until the earliest June 22nd when they want to reopen classes in person.
Wow. And I'm seeing, yeah, and I'm seeing in the chat that there's also that variation between your buildings being able to operate independently from class schedules, and then also people not being able to open until their classes open as well.
Can I add something real quick into this? This is Lisa from University of Central Florida. We have been given mandate that our summer semester will be online through at least end of June, if not the full summer session. That's a very robust session for us. I don't know about every university, but we have a lot of students that take classes over the summer and live on campus as well. So that's a big message that the university was sending to have students off campus. And so to your point about not following the school calendar or not being on the same schedule as that, we're currently looking at, do we encourage student employees to work if we reopen, or how can we navigate the expectations of students based on the university's message and ours, because we obviously want to open as soon as we can, but align with what the university has been saying.
Yep. No, that's a really valid point. And we will definitely transition right into that in just one moment. Something that I think is really interesting to try to think about right now is maybe if we're able to share what we are all actually working on from home, because I know for me, until a couple weeks ago, as an aquatics professional, I was like, I am a higher ed professional, I am a campus rec professional, and yes, I am an aquatics professional, but my student staff is my first priority, and then everything else is my next priority. I love the pool, I love the programming, but as we have now shifted and my students are not here with me, I've been trying to get a little creative and doing a lot of front end planning on stuff that I'm working on. And also I don't necessarily have to defend my job yet, but I need to make sure that I'm doing enough to actually have my 40 hours of work a week. So what are some things that people are working on from home as they are in aquatics and or your other duties?
I would say for me, at least right now, I'm working on like engagement topics to try to keep people engaged as best as possible. As best as possible via like Instagram or Twitter. You know, I'm trying to work on some things for the summer program, and with different ways to get students engaged whenever we do open up campus again. It's just been, I guess, hard to try to, I guess, plan around the whole pandemic and the virus thing, because we don't necessarily know when we will be opening. And you know, you guys are saying, some of you guys are saying June, which is still very shocking to me. Even it's still even shocking to me for when people say, when they tell me April or late April and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to keep everyone engaged because we also do a lot of swim lessons outside for the community too. So just trying to, you know, post things for the swim team kids, you know, try to get them to do some workouts from home, or like, you know, make sure you guys are working on how to do backstroke the right way, or, you know, remember, like, this is how you guys do breaststroke. I just posted something today to like correctly do breaststroke. So it's trying to just keep everyone engaged as possible, even though no one's really checking for the Instagram as much as I would like them to.
This is Kristen from University of North Texas. Right now we are currently in the process of creating in-services that can be done online through some videos, through some test questions, and getting creative with that to keep our staff engaged. Because right now we can find hours for them. Our student staff can still get paid, but we're working through the ins and outs of getting those videos made, and then as well as what that's going to look like, and as well as we're going through what we can do with the American Red Cross and getting all those updated compiled for all our LGIs and WSIs who may need to see any of the update changes. That's a big chunk of it right now. And then, but basically just trying to get our staff to stay consistent with their trainings as best as we can.
Great.
Hey fam, this is Kathryn. I'm at Loyola University Chicago right now. We unfortunately are not able to pay our students to remotely work. We've talked about ideas, we wanted to. Chicago also has sick pay in effect, and we're not able to use that for our students. But one thing that we have been doing is setting up, we reached out to all of our students and said, hey, we're available for Skype chats. We normally do one-on-ones at the end of the school year to sit and talk with our students, review the year, plan for the coming years. So we've reached out to all of our students and said, hey, I'm available for a 30-minute Skype chat if you want. And we can do something productive like going over your resume or cover letter or, you know, a mock interview, or we can just sit and chat because that's part of well-being. Check in and see how things are going with your transition to being online only, to your transition to being stuck at home with, you know, family that you don't spend a ton of time with. So those have actually been fairly popular with our students.
I've been looking at LinkedIn Learning. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with that. It's like a online professional development resource through LinkedIn, usually just for professional staff, but I'm really hoping that we can get it available for student staff because there's some courses that I believe are useful there, such as working on communication or collaborating with teammates, as well as preparing for next steps after they graduate. So that's something I've been looking on for the last couple of days.
At VCU, we were trying to make virtual aquatics resources. So we made like games parents could play with their kids in the bathtub, which is away from the lifeguarding aspect of it and more towards the programming aspect of it. But my boss has kids, and so we filmed her like playing games with her kids in our pool, so parents could have a resource for something to do to entertain them that's to do with water.
So one of the things that I've been doing a lot of lately is the various webinars from ACPA, and then I found out earlier today on Coursera, Yale's offering their psychology of well-being, or the science of well-being class for free for people. You do have to audit rather than take the certificate, but there's also University of Penn's doing a grit theory, positivity psychology course on Coursera for free. That I've been trying to up that educational end, and then one of the things that I will be doing eventually is creating more of the first aid training with some of the stop action videos with the stuffed animals and different things, just to give people a first aid refresher that in something that a much sillier way, just so something, especially since I don't have my CPR or dummy with me, or being able to use some of the equipment that I normally would use.
Yeah. Well, and also something, I was gonna announce this at the end, but so I'm in the West Coast, Pacific Northwest region of the Red Cross. I reached out to my rep, Tatiana, and she will be on the call next week for available for questions that are anything certification related. As far as I think it would be a good opportunity to ask her about remote learning and blended learning and all of that sort of stuff. So think about any questions that you might have for her. And then she also is able to reroute you to your Red Cross reps if she's not able to answer your questions for your area specifically. So something else that I think, so everyone's putting some really good content in the side of the chat, which again will be available for everyone to view probably tomorrow or the next day. I've seen a lot of people that are posting that they're working on leadership trainings, online personal and professional development series. This is a good time to review your aquatics employee manual, which I know is always super tedious. So that's always fun. It also is a good time to maybe audit your EAPs and make sure that everything looks good. And also, I'm going to take this time to plan all of my in-service trainings, because I have a huge list of skills that I think need to be checked off the list every year, and then I will go through and create plans and then figure out how I can do them either remotely or when we all come back. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add as far as what you're working on from home?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Cobarrubias. I'm from Stanford University. And basically what my aquatics coordinator and I did was compile all the things that were on our to-do list. So we all have those little sticky notes or those pieces of paper like, oh, we don't have time for this. So like that will, you know, when we get off the lifeguard stand, we'll be able to do this one day. And so Natalie actually posted in the chat, she's doing the manual right now and redoing the lifeguard and swim instructor manual. And then all those little tasks. So any like documents or anything that need updated and just uniforming those, that's what we're kind of doing right now. All those tasks that we can't really do when we're on the lifeguard stand, basic expectations, job descriptions, updating those. So that's what we're doing right now. We can't pay most of our staff. We are allowed to pay a few of our staff. So we have to do harassment prevention online training and bloodborne pathogens training for Stanford employees. So anyone that has expired or has not finished theirs, if they were just hired on, is allowed to do those from home. And then someone said one-on-one meetings. We were finishing our quarterly one-on-one meetings. So there's a few that we're going to finish via Zoom that they'll be paid for. And then we just got the okay to have our staff make like swim sets or dry land workouts. So we're posting those, and we're doing Stanford University motivation, movement motivation. So we're posting all of that stuff. So some of the students are helping. We'll be able to help with dry land workouts and any other swim workouts when we open back up.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. So that kind of circles back to, and I am that circle back person. I'm sure everyone's been seeing the funny gifs of like what you find out about your spouse or significant other when you work from home. I circle back. So so a lot of us are in that spot where if our building opens up before classes open up, what obligation do our students have to come back and work for us? I know I personally told everybody, your health is my first priority. And if you have the option to go home and stay home, and that's what you want to do, I fully support you in doing that. You just have to communicate with me and you will have a job when you come back, when you're comfortable. Is there anybody else that has had any different directives from your university as far as when you're allowed to have students come back on campus and work?
This is Joey from Arizona State. We are kind of in the same situation as you, Richelle, where we're highly encouraging. Well, so first of all, we're highly encouraging students to leave town and go home and be with family instead of sticking around, because there isn't that many hours that we can provide them. The most we can do is a couple hours vacuuming the pool each week. Yeah, basically what we've done is we've said, you know, all of our lifeguards can have their jobs back when they come back in fall, assuming their certifications are still valid, all of that stuff. Obviously, we're going to offer review courses as we open, as soon as we know we're going to open. Right now it's a tentative for mid-May, but we have no idea what's going to happen in the next couple months. So we're kind of planning for mid-May, but it's still kind of up in the air for us.
Yeah, and Max Miller from Swarthmore College made a good point, saying that if your students are coming back to work, you need to make sure that they have a place to stay, whether that be on or off campus. And I know that a lot of schools have moved to terminate people living on campus. So our dorms are staying open for people who need to live here, but everyone else, they are encouraging to go home. And then also Bob pointed out making sure that everyone knows about the 90-day extension that Red Cross has put out for all certifications. So that's something really important to keep in mind. They've extended your certification expiration date by 90 days because they're hoping that by then we'll be able to run all of our recertification programs. And then I've heard a couple people say that they are allowed to pay their students remotely. We are not able to pay our students remotely as of now. I'm trying to justify having our marketing assistants working because I am not a graphic designer. That's why I hire people with those skills. So no one wants to see the trash I create for Instagram. That's why we have real people do it. So yeah, so it's stuff like that, just knowing what your capacity is. And yeah, so thanks, Max. And for anybody that is in the situation where you are now creating your own Instagram content, Canva is God's gift to earth. And that is a really good resource to create decent looking visuals if you don't have any graphic design background. Okay, has anybody's interview process changed? So are people trying to hire potentially for summer already, or hiring for when you come back in spring maybe? Like, has anybody started to look at Taylor is not allowed to hire? Yeah, I've started to kind of look at what I potentially could do, and it looks like most people are on hiring freezes right now. Everybody. Oh, wow.
Everything will be fine. Actually, this is Beth from the University of Guelph in Ontario. We are permitted to continue with the interview process, provided they're not in person, so we can do them over Zoom or Skype or whatever. We are not allowed to send any offer letters for employment, even for our spring and summer staff. So we can take the stages to do the interviews, review resumes, but we're held at the point from HR currently about offering letters, whether or not it has a start or end date on it, regardless. And then the discussion with my lifeguard staff is that it is still dependent on successful completion of an in-water skills evaluation once we are returned to the facility. So this is really only step one of interview. We are going ahead with all of our summer camp staff interviews currently as well. That's the second part of my portfolio, is all of our active kids programs. So we've already hired our summer camp directors. So they're helping sit on with some of those Zoom meetings for our summer camp staff. And again, not knowing start dates, how we're going to run camps, or what our pools are going to look like. We're saying, you know, we like you, but we can't put anything in writing currently.
Hi, Autumn for University of Cincinnati. So we are looking to do a online job fair. We usually hold a big one at the end of like March, April. So we're going to try and at least get some interviews there. We do require background checks with the state of Ohio since they're working with minors. So that process is on hold, but we can at least start the interview process. Also, starting tomorrow, we're going to start interviewing our current staff for our aquatic supervisor position and do that online too, just to get ready for summer. But that's kind of where we're at with this hiring process. I'm not sure about our in-water skills because we do have that. And that tends to be the biggest deal breaker in hiring lifeguards. And so I think maybe do the interview process, get those questions answered first, and then come back and do that water skill.
We're in kind of the same boat, Autumn and Beth, where we're looking at starting the interview process and offering conditional on the fact that they can pass a swim test or a skills test when they get back. Because we were supposed to have tryouts and interviews the week we shut down. So we have a list of interested candidates. It's just a matter of, we're just trying to touch base with them and saying like, hey, we still really need you to work for us over the summer, and trying to keep in touch with them so they, we don't lose them, even though we know we're probably going to lose a significant portion of them.
Hi there. At the University of Georgia, we are looking at doing virtual interviews as well, but I did want to ask everyone here what that looks like, because we are having to build our summer schedule out ahead of time as soon as we have our tentative open date. What are y'all doing for building out the schedule, because the biggest hurdle we're looking at is having guards that we hire and then tentatively offer them the job position, but then we also have a huge dive well that they have to be able to, you know, get the break at the bottom. And what makes us nervous is going ahead and creating a schedule and then like promising these guards these positions, but then if they fail their skills test before we actually, or when they come in to actually complete it, we will have to remove them from the schedule. So does anybody have any advice on what they're doing for building out the schedule ahead of time, but then filtering those guards in if they pass or fail the skills test?
So I can just tell you that again, working at several different universities, I used to rely really heavily on if they don't pass the skills, that's it, they're done. And I have pivoted in the last couple of years to having some weight with how good their skills are and their skill competency, but also giving people a chance to be like, your skills were not where I need them to be, but your character is where I need it to be. And you have the personality to fit our culture. And offering remedial skills sessions, because you can teach skills, but you can't teach character. And so that, I feel like that'll be really important going into summer, where we need people, we just need bodies. We need bodies with certifications, but we need them to be safe. So that might be like shifting your mindset just a little bit to be like, it'll be okay, but you might have to put more work in.
I'm gonna kind of follow up on that. So I'm also from the University of Georgia. I work with Brooke. I think where our big concern is that we don't have a typical rec center pool. We have a competitive diving well and a competitive 50-meter pool. Our diving well goes to 17 feet deep, and some people just like physically don't have the capability of going down there. Whenever I first started working at Georgia, I found out that we had multiple people on staff who physically couldn't go down that far because their eardrums would burst, and we unfortunately had to let them go. Yeah. But I think our big concern is if we do wind up getting these new hires in and their skills are adequate or almost there, if they still can't go to the bottom of the diving well to potentially perform a rescue, that's where our big concern is, because we are a multi-use facility. We have so many people coming in. So how do we balance that with also the needs of filling the schedule, I think is where the main concern for us is.
Agreed, Paige.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. A 17-foot dive tank is a whole other thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask if anyone else.
This is Katie at the University of Minnesota. We are in the same boat with the 17-foot diving well, and we will make a lot of exceptions in other areas. You can't make an exception in that. It was like 10 years ago, there was an incident in Iowa where someone we knew had to go in because the lifeguard couldn't. So she had to go in her dress clothes to go get someone because they were at the bottom. So it's not worth it. Like, in other areas, I understand where you can teach someone some of the simple saves. You can teach someone how to backboard better. You can't teach someone to go to the bottom without extensive swim lesson training, essentially.
Yeah.
My pool's 7 feet deep.
I guess I should have made that clear with saying maybe those specific with dive well pools. That's our biggest issue. Other than that, you know, our guards are accurately perform all of their skills, but it's the dive well that scares us. And we don't want to put them on stand or have to cater the rotation around them not having to go to the dive well. So that's the problem we're kind of running into. So yeah, those pools specific with dive wells, I'll say.
I don't know how your hiring goes, but we've had people who couldn't do the lifeguard diving well test, so we moved them over to our Learn to Swim program because that's all in shallow water. They don't have to be in the diving well. So if that helps.
And I would also suggest, I can send you, Brooke, if you wouldn't mind emailing me, I can send you the names of my LGIT Academy instructors. And we had to go down to the bottom of the 13-foot tank for my LGIT training. And they had a whole series of progressions. And there was one person who it took a while for her to be able to get down to the bottom, but they had like a series of progressions to help them or help all of us get down to the bottom. So maybe having maybe that could help with like that training aspect for people who are struggling. And also, like, struggling is different from like not having the physical capacity to do your job.
Awesome, thank you.
Brooke and Paige, this is Linda McKee, also from Minnesota. Just to address your scheduling question, we are right now, we are super fortunate that the University of Minnesota is paying student staff. We're allowed to pay them their average hourly wage through the end of our semester. So even though we have a handful who are staying on campus, but most of our students are not returning since we are online the rest of the school year. We're confident that we'll have a lot of those students who will stay with us because we are being able to pay them. Crossing our fingers, will be reopened in June. Right now, in terms of scheduling out the summer, we have obviously a full slate of events this summer. Right now, the only event that we have officially had canceled for this summer is the Paralympic trials, obviously with the Olympics being postponed. So we haven't really changed our event schedule. We haven't officially canceled anything past April 30th right now, which was the USA Swimming sanction end date. So we're holding on the May, June, July events until we have more direction from them, but we're scheduling those events as normal. In terms of our just open hours that we schedule, we're essentially going to wait and see. And once we know what students are coming back and what our hiring outlook will be, then we'll schedule accordingly. So, you know, I normally have, you know, open swim and lap swim available 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., you know, Monday through Friday. Right now that might look like I have 6 to 8 a.m. and 11 to 1 p.m. and 3 to 5 p.m. And we'll just, you know, we've been transparent with our members and students that we don't know what the schedule will look like when we reopen, but we'll be open as much as we can. So I think the key is just being transparent with your users that we have no idea what things are going to look like when we come back, and we'll schedule what we can schedule with the staff that we'll have available.
Awesome, thank you so much. So we had a question sent to me by Kristen, and she's wondering if anybody has any plans or clearance to schedule deep cleaning of your pools or facilities based off of the new research that's come out that COVID-19 can live on surfaces for potentially 72 hours, and how people or their facilities are managing that deep clean that is required.
So last week, when we found out that we'd be transitioning to remote work and the facility was closed, we already had student staff scheduled for Tuesday through Friday of that week because it was spring break. And so what happened was, for those who are already scheduled, we turned that into a deep cleaning session, essentially, for the entire facility, pool included. All the dumbbells, barbells, every surface of the gym was cleaned. And so that was our deep clean. The professional staff will probably go in a little bit, in another week or so, to clean again, just to really get all those nooks and crannies.
Yeah, so Carlos Garcia, Texas A&M. So this is our first day working remote from home. We just got shut down yesterday. And so up until a week and a half ago, we were opening up the rec center and counting how many people were coming in, no more than 50 when the 50 count was still available. And then we would shut down the whole rec center from 2 to 4 the first week, and then 2 to 5 the second week. And we would do deep cleaning during those hours. So it'd be all hands on deck. All staff would come in, disinfect everything in the facility, and then reopen. And then at closing, we would disinfect the pool area, the auditorium area as well. So that's some of the things that we took in precautions. There are some things that I'm reached out to my vendor. Richelle, I can send you the link. It's basically a chlorinized super soaker type tab that they put in. They attach it to any water hose, you spray it off. Within 2 minutes, it kills off anything from parvo to just anything and everything that's disease-like. So that's one of the things that people are going into the industry of in that direction.
Carlos, that would be great. And if you have it, if you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat for everyone as well, that would be a huge help.
All right, you got it.
Thank you. I can tell you from our end, we have an in-house custodial staff, which is a blessing. and they are classified staff, so they're the ones that are actually deep cleaning everything with guidelines from our environmental health and safety. And we're actually not allowed in the building to do any of the cleaning because they think it would be a hazard. And we're also not legally allowed to take hours from them right now. Has anybody else, it looks like a lot of people are having either students doing cleaning or having a lot of their full-time custodial staff doing their cleaning as well. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's so great to have a full-time custodial staff. They're absolutely wonderful. Wow, that's interesting that your custodial isn't considered essential. Katie.
Yeah,
wow.
They just announced that today. We have people maintaining equipment, and they're doing all sorts of like facility projects that they don't get to do very often because we rarely shut down like this. So lots of retiling, lots, you know, those random odd projects that get ignored. But we're just still fighting the custodial battle.
Wow. So I think the next thing that I would hopefully be really helpful for everyone for us to kind of talk about are ideas for alternative programming. I know coming from an aquatics background, like I did club swim team and then played club water polo. And so I don't do much land. I mean, I've started to do land-based activities, but I very much feel like a fish out of water right now, trying to figure out how to appropriately offer programming for the masters team that I coach, because they're like, we're at home, we want workouts. So does anybody have any ideas for alternative programming that you are thinking about offering or that are in the works that you would be willing to share?
Hi, Richelle. Marcos here from Portland State. So I also felt like a fish out of water. I was like, there's no pool. What are we going to do? So I did a quick search on YouTube, and I found a YouTube channel called My Swim Pro. And they're actually live streaming a lot of dryland workouts geared for swimmers that are currently out of the pool. And they have a lot of content already. And every Sunday they live stream a new workout and then they upload it. So you could either do it as they're live streaming it, or you can push it out to your members. So I've been using that, My Swim Pro, on YouTube.
Awesome, thank you.
Sometime I've been thinking about doing this. I haven't done it yet. I do a lot of photography and videography outside of my job, but I've been thinking about recording dryland workouts for the younger kids or the senior kids to do while they're at home, so that they're just not sitting around and, you know, doing nothing at all, so they don't get lazy or so their muscles don't get used to the break that they've had for so long and not swimming. Because I know a lot of our kids are definitely, like you said, a fish out of water right now, and they don't necessarily know how to take it, and they don't really know what the next step is going to be, since we're all trying to really figure out what we want to do next.
At University of Guelph, our swim club coach has been doing dryland video workouts, if not daily, every other day, and challenging it out to the swimmers, including the Masters Club. What we're also doing with our fitness and recreation members from our facility is that we're also offering virtual fitness classes through our Instagram, typically at lunchtime, but sometimes they're in the evening. So that way there's no need for a membership, and there's a huge variety of what we offer. So we were trying to push our swimmers to using that as their dryland of activity. And then for our engagement for our camp families, we're doing virtual camp on our camp's Facebook page. So 2 to 3 times a week, we'll post videos from our camp director about activities, partner games they can do at home, crafts ideas. So we're trying to do engagement for customers as well as our part-time employees to keep their skills going. If you're looking for another resource online too, we've used them in in-service training. It's called lifeguardsloveyoutube.com. And they have a lot of great videos about, you know, stuff you can do at home that's maybe not skill-based in the water, but also scanning games and drills, awareness, even them, you know, just having them watch rescues online, and then you can have open discussions. If you do happen to have those team meetings, those are also really good to do.
Great, thank you, Beth.
At Weber State, we haven't put anything out yet, but I've been rating the US Masters website for articles and videos for dryland training, and they have a lot of specific articles for dryland training to improve stroke performance. So they have some videos of workouts that you can do for like improving your backstroke or improving your butterfly, things like that. So I'm getting together those resources to send out to our swimming groups and our swim club. And then also just for the social aspect for Masters swimming, the Masters team I'm on is doing weekly game nights just so that they can get together somehow. And we actually have one of our old Masters coaches has one of those like endless pools, and he's letting people schedule time to go use his endless pool.
That's awesome. I wish I had an endless pool. That would be so nice. Yeah, those are all wonderful ideas, and we'll be able to compile a list of these ideas, and I think it would be really great for all of us to, maybe we'll post them on Connect or have them somewhere else, so that way we can all, like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, we just need to figure out how to connect with people who are probably feeling pretty lost right now. A couple other things that I have thought of are doing a virtual aquatics themed like movie marathon, and my my marketing assistant was able to come up with 4 different aquatics themed movies, and then just schedule it out and have people be like, here's some aquatics themed movies, watch them and let us know what you think. And I also was thinking about starting a virtual kind of a swim training series, so like a tip of the day. There's also a lot of resources on YouTube about triathlon training, so if you're able to maybe start I know a lot of people are thinking about doing virtual 5Ks. If this whole thing lasts until summer, I know a lot of us hopefully live near bodies of water that will be open, like lakes and rivers and things. It might be worth doing some sort of training for a virtual swim once it is warm enough to get into some alternative bodies of water. So I think this will be a really good time for all of us to look at what land folks are doing, traditionally like land people, and figure out how we can best modify that for the group that we serve. Does anybody have any other ideas for alternative programming that you're thinking about doing?
At FSU, we have our group fitness is like blowing up with the virtual, but for us, we're looking more of like health and safety. And I've been asked if I could run like a hands-only CPR, like Zoom or stuff to send out to the staff, or not just to the FSU community. But my question is that if we are doing like classes like that online, are we allowed to do that with like, because it is Red Cross content and things like that? So that's what I've been kind of hesitant to say, what like little first aid snippets I could put together and stuff, if we're allowed to like send out information like that from the Red Cross. If anyone has any knows information about that.
So Tatiana will have that answer for us. So I can add that to my list, because I have a list of certification, because like for me, I'm trying to figure out what classes I can lecture virtually and then schedule in-person skills stuff with. And I want to make sure, just like you, Lizzie, that I'm not going to lose my certifications for doing that.
Hey, this is Sarah from A&M Commerce. I did talk to our Red Cross rep, Jeremy Post, about that. And for the videos that you can get on Instructor's Corner, he said that you can get to them and your staff can get to them without a login, and you can direct them to watch the video. And then you can create your own quiz if you want to do something like that for them to show that they watched it. But you can't upload the videos to another website or anything like that. But they can access them for free through the candidates page. And so that's what we're going to do. I've sent them the links of how to get to the videos. And then I created quizzes on my own using like Google Quiz to where then they can submit those and then they will get paid for them. For lifeguarding, we're also going to do the blended learning link. I talked to Jeremy about an hour ago about that as well. And so I'll send them that 7-hour blended learning lifeguard link. And then once they send me that completion, they will get 7 hours paid for that. So there are ways to use those videos. We just have to make sure they're accessing them through the Red Cross portal.
That's what I was thinking of with blended learning. I have a couple staff who is planning a recertification class in the next month, but then all this stuff happened. So I'm trying to think of ways to make sure I have staff that are fully certified when they come back. And I know thank you for the Red Cross 90-day extension. That was good to know. But what I was thinking of doing was sending out the blended learning class. And then when we come back, do the in-person skills there. And I don't use blended learning all that much. So if anyone with more experience could let me know if that'd be a good option or.
It's magical. Do it. It is so wonderful. Nobody wants to listen to me talk for 4 days. So,
I don't want to talk for 4 days.
No, it's so painful. Yeah. So if you're able to, because like you also have to have a group of people that will actively do the blended learning. And I like the online, like I love the new learning center because you can actually see if they've started it and then you can heckle them and be like, hey, I've screenshotted and I can see that you haven't even started this link. Here's the deadline. You need to complete this by this time. And then it's easy for you to track if they've completed the online portion.
Okay. Thank you.
Adam, my only kind of recommendation to you would be to be cautious of how soon you send out the blended learning material, because what I've seen from my own experience in teaching through the blended learning style is if people complete the online portion too soon before meeting in person, they haven't retained any of the information. So you're essentially having to do all of the lecture stuff in person in a much shorter amount of time when you really should just be reviewing. So really figure out when y'all plan on reopening and getting that staff back in, and then wait to send it out. That way.
And I wasn't, we right now don't have a timeline of when we're reopening. As soon as I get like a confirmed date, that's when that was the closest I would consider to sending that out. Luckily here at University of Wyoming, one thing I can do is we have a free, through the University of Bloodborne Pathogen online only training. So I think I'm going to use that to send out to staff. I mean, it's only worth 30 minutes, but it's better than nothing. And we have some staff that needs to get recertified. I really wish the Red Cross BVP would last longer than a year for certifications, but.
Yeah.
Here at Portland State, Marcos, I attended a mock hands-only CPR refresher on a Zoom call earlier this week. And what the instructor did is he pulled up the videos on his computer and then he used the Zoom share screen option, and the videos worked perfectly. We were able to watch along with the instructor and he was able to pause and talk about it. So we did kind of like a little refresher. He made the disclaimer that this is not certifying anybody. It's just for review purposes.
So I was going to ask about that because you have to have the mannequins for the full. You also have to have the physical materials, but you're just using this as like a refresher then, Marcos?
Yes, we were just using it to review skills and refresh people that are already certified.
Okay, I like that idea. Thanks.
Also, Bob gave me another little tidbit. The 90-day extension is available for free, but there will be an additional online class that you have to complete in order to maintain your certification through that extension. And again, like I had previously mentioned, my rep will be on this call because we're doing another call the same time next week. And I think we can dive a little bit deeper into our options for Red Cross during the first part of that call. So if you have any specific questions, please let us know so that way we can make sure that she is able to answer those for you. Also, so I think we've got a couple minutes left. Does anybody have, I've heard a couple of folks talk about doing virtual in-services. Has anybody thought about doing a virtual in-service? What does that look like? Could anybody talk to us about their experience with that?
So I've done digital in-services I tried to do it 2-3 years ago. And I found you have to have reflective questions. And you want to make sure that it's not just something that they can find the answer by Googling. You want to make sure that they actually read the content that you're asking them to read. So by having the more of a reflection or an opinion from what they were reading was definitely much more useful, or having them answer more paragraph style or short answer style questions rather than just a quick like ABC or so, because you can actually make sure that they're getting the material, and also even having them supply some of the link videos or creating some of the content itself is also very useful. I did move away from that pretty like after 2 years though, because I wasn't, like, half my staff wasn't doing it on a consistent basis. I was always hunting them down, where it was easier to do it as a setting up the in-person meetings, because then they were much more likely to do the work. But now that everybody's doing remote, I think that will change a little bit. But I did definitely move away from that digital creation.
Great. I think we have time for one more comment, or one or two more people, if there's anyone else that has a question or something they would like to share.
At FSU in last semester, I had groups of employees and they all had to film themselves doing a rescue together, and that worked really well. So all of them had to perform a specific piece to it, and they all had to do it multiple times. And so maybe if they're not all quarantined together, they could show what an entire primary assessment looks like on whoever is living with them, and making sure that they make, I always told them the more dramatic, the better. So that worked really well. So they all didn't have to come in and do it. They all did it on their own time and stuff like that. So having them film and send it in worked well for us.
Yeah, at A&M Commerce, we are actually sending that out next week. We're directing them to a couple of the videos. This is more specifically for our dry side staff, but like the videos about sample, and then having them record themselves of the most creative way of how they're going to do that interview. So whether it's a sibling that's in the house, or a roommate, or I know some of my staff are probably going to put a stuffed animal or do role play. You know, we're going to encourage them to get some creative with it. So we're going to do the first 2 videos. We're going to do sample, going through that interview process. And then the other one is going to be controlling bleeding with what you have in your house or apartment, and how creative can you get with that, keeping in mind all the key things that you have to safety-wise. So we're excited about it. We're going to see, I'm pretty sure some of my staff are going to get really creative. So we're going to have to put that disclaimer of being appropriate as well. But I think it'll be cool, and they're kind of excited about it too.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here today and sharing. Yeah, you have one more?
Richelle, sorry.
Yeah.
Lizzie Mikas from FSU and I have been working together to create a Microsoft Teams account that came from some conversations between those of us who are involved with the Association of Aquatics Professionals, which if you're not involved with that, you should be. And Lizzie can post a link to a Google form. If you're able to use Microsoft Teams and you're interested in having some further conversations around this stuff, we'd love to have you on that. I think it'd be a really good way to kind of continue the conversations from these meetings.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joey. I totally agree with that. And I know this has felt like we've had a lot of stuff that we've really very broadly covered. So I'm really excited that we've already scheduled another one. We'll have a follow-up meeting next week at the same time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Some topics that we didn't get to that I had thought about were continuing to talk about those in-services, maybe exploring a little bit more into the fiscal impacts of what all of these closures are going to do and how we're going to handle them. And then also talking about exploring more how we can connect with our staff and with our patrons. And based off of the information that everyone has given us with the online stuff, maybe go a little bit more into the alternative programming. So if you have any other questions about how we can help or how any of us can support you, please tune in next week or email us individually. And yeah, well, hopefully I'll see everybody again next week. So thanks so much. We will do this. It'll be okay.